You walk into a room, and your chest tightens before anyone speaks. You don't know why, but the air feels heavy, charged with something invisible. Later, you realize it was the tension between two people who hadn't even looked at each other. You absorb the silence. You digest their unspoken anger. And by the time you get home, you are exhausted from living a life that wasn't even yours. If you have ever felt physically drained by someone else's mood, you are not imagining it. Your body is picking up signals that others are biologically blind to. If this channel has helped you understand yourself even a little better, please hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps more people find this content who need it. Now, let's look at what is actually happening inside your biology. For years, you were told you were too sensitive. You were told you needed to toughen up, to build a thicker skin, to stop taking things so personally. But here's what most people misunderstand. Sensitivity is not a personality flaw. It is a neurological configuration. Recent advances in neuroscience have begun to map the empath's brain, and the results are staggering. You do not just feel more. Your nervous system processes information differently. You are not broken. You are built for high-resolution emotional data. Today, we are going to dismantle the myth of the overly sensitive person and replace it with the science of the highly attuned nervous system. We will explore why your empathy is a biological trait, how it makes you vulnerable to specific types of toxicity, and how to finally stop absorbing what isn't yours. Let's start with the hardware. Inside your brain, there are specialized cells called mirror neurons. Everyone has them. They are the reason you wince when you see someone stub their toe. But in empaths, these neurons are not just active, they are hyperactive. Research suggests that empaths have a denser network of these connections, creating a superhighway for emotional data. When you see someone in pain, your brain does not just recognize their pain cognitively, it simulates it somatically. Your insula, the part of the brain responsible for interoception, or sensing your internal state, lights up as if the pain were your own. This is where the real danger begins for the unaware empath. Because your brain cannot easily distinguish between self and other, you end up carrying the physiological burden of everyone around you. You are not being dramatic. You are experiencing a literal neural resonance. That is not weakness. That is high-fidelity reception. But without a filter, that reception becomes noise, and noise is exhausting. Here's where it gets really interesting. Your vagus nerve, the main component of your parasympathetic nervous system, acts as the brake pedal for your stress response. In many empaths, this system is calibrated differently. You have a lower threshold for detecting threat. While others might miss subtle cues of aggression or manipulation, your body screams danger at the slightest shift in tone or energy. This is often misdiagnosed as anxiety, but it is not anxiety. It is accurate data processing. You are picking up on micro-expressions, shifts in pupil dilation, and changes in voice pitch that the average person filters out. However, because society tells you these signals are irrelevant, you gaslight yourself. You tell yourself you are overreacting. You suppress the signal. But the nervous system keeps score. Every time you ignore your gut feeling to be polite, you create cognitive dissonance. Your body knows the truth, even if your mind is trying to deny it. This constant internal conflict drains your battery faster than any physical labor ever could. Now, here's the part that makes this genuinely dangerous to certain people. Because your nervous system is open and receptive, you are a prime target for what psychologists call narcissistic supply seekers. These individuals, whether they are full-blown narcissists or simply emotionally immature, subconsciously sense your openness. They feel your lack of rigid boundaries not as a vulnerability, but as an invitation. They dump their unprocessed trauma, their rage, and their chaos into your field because you can hold it. You become the container for their dysregulation. And here's the twist. They often feel better after interacting with you, while you feel shattered. This is not a coincidence. It is energetic parasitism. They are using your regulated nervous system to co-regulate their own chaotic one. You are doing the emotional labor for two people. And because you are wired to help, you mistake this exhaustion for love. You think, if I just try harder, I can fix this. But you cannot regulate someone who is committed to remaining dysregulated. That is not loyalty. That is self-abandonment. Let's talk about the long-term impact. When you spend years absorbing other people's emotions, your body stays in the state of low-grade fight or flight. Your cortisol levels remain elevated. Your immune system weakens. You may experience chronic fatigue, digestive issues, or unexplained aches. This is the somatic cost of empathy without boundaries. You have been treating your sensitivity as a problem to be solved, rather than a resource to be protected. You have been trying to shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for your depth. But here's a fun fact that genuinely blew my mind. Studies show that empaths who learn to set rigid boundaries actually show increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for decision-making and self-control. When you stop absorbing, your brain literally rewires itself for clarity. You move from reaction to discernment. You stop being a sponge and start being a sieve. You let the water pass through, but you keep the gold. So here's the truth nobody tells you. Your sensitivity is not a defect in your design. It is the very thing that makes you sovereign. The world needs people who can feel the tremors before the earthquake. It needs people who can see the pain behind the mask. But you cannot serve from an empty vessel. You have been taught that love means self-sacrifice, that caring means carrying. But true compassion requires separation. You must be able to stand in the fire without burning. You must be able to witness the storm without becoming the rain. That is not coldness. That is sustainability. You are not here to save everyone. You are here to embody the peace that comes from knowing exactly where you end and where the world begins. When you reclaim your energy, you do not become less loving. You become more potent. You become untouchable, not because you are hard, but because you are whole. This journey of reclaiming your nervous system is not about building walls. It is about installing doors. You decide who comes in. You decide how long they stay. You decide what they can leave behind. It is a practice of daily discernment. It is choosing peace over performance. It is choosing your own sanity over someone else's comfort. and it is the most radical act of self-love you can perform. Which of these signs hit the hardest for you? Was it the mirror neuron overload, the vagus nerve alerts, or the energy vampire dynamic? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one, and your story might be the key that unlocks someone else's healing. If this video resonated with you, share it with one person who needs to hear that they are not too much. They are just right. Thank you for trusting me with your time and your heart. Keep thriving.